Back in Power BI, and in today's video, we are going to show you 10 impactful ways that you can visualize your total sales. We're going to create one measure, total sales. We're going to show you 10 different ways that you can visualize this. That's one, instructive for the user to quickly see what the data is trying to show them in terms of trends and overall sales results. And a second way is to kind of show you some of the different options in those visualizations with formatting. So let's go to Power BI, work on total sales, and show you 10 impactful ways to visualize your total sales data in Power BI. Back in Power BI, we are going to show you 10 different ways that you can show total sales in your visualizations. We are going to focus in on some of the reasons why you may want to choose the different visualizations. We're going to do a little bit of chart formatting, but mainly just give you some ideas so that you can show total sales, which is one of the more important sales metrics you're going to want to show in Power BI in your dashboards. Remember, you can follow along by downloading the AdventureWorks file. It is located in the description. You can download the file and follow along. We're going to create one measure, which is going to be total sales. Then we're going to make one change to the date table, and then we're going to start working on the visualizations. So from the data model, remember this data viz is part of the AdventureWorks data model, and the model is already set up. You have all your data model relationships built, and we're going to work out of the report view. And the first thing you're going to do is create a new page. We're going to rename this page. We're going to call this line chart by year. And so that'll get us started. The first thing we are going to do is go to the sales table. And from the sales table, we're going to create one new measure. And the name of the measure is going to be total sales. Now, this is going to use the DAX syntax of sum. If you're not familiar with sum, we're going to show you how to create total sales. I did do a video on introduction to DAX that you can learn the sum function. So when creating a DAX measure, you need to name the measure, and the name of the measure is going to be total sales. If you hit Shift Enter, that'll bring in the new line, and then we're going to use the sum, and the sum asks for the total from the column name. We're going to use the sales, and then the column is going to be sales amount. So when we close that off with a right parenthesis, that is going to create the total sales measure. You see that measure on the right-hand side. The only formatting we are going to do is change this to 0 decimal places. So now we have a total sales measure. We have a date table with this model for AdventureWorks. We're going to create one new calculated column. So we're going to go to the date table, and we're going to create a new column. And what we're going to do is capture the year. And we're going to use this from an existing column. So the formula is going to be year. And we're going to go Shift Enter to create a new line. And if you bring up the year syntax, all this is asking for is the date. And the date is the date inside the date table. So we bring up that date from the date table, and that is the column. Now, when you hit Enter, this will create a new column, and it's going to be in the date table. If we go to the table view, you'll see this year is now in there. And for year options for this data set, we have 2017, 18, 19, 20, and 21. So those are the only two changes we are going to make to the model. If we go back to the report view, we see on the right-hand side, we have the year and we have our total sales measure. So the first chart we're going to make with the 10 ways to show total sales for impact is what is known as a line chart. And this line chart is going to be from your visual gallery. if you go to the line and area, if you select the line chart option, that will bring up a brand new line chart. And we're going to make this bigger. When you go to your formatting options, we don't have any formatting options yet, but we do need to build the visual. So for the x-axis, when you look at it, we are going to be looking at the x-axis, and the first thing you're going to want to do is bring in the year. So from the date table, we're going to bring in the year. That is going to be the x-axis. And on the y-axis, we're going to bring in total sales. So when you bring in this total sales, we now have a line chart, our first chart for total sales. Now we're going to make just a couple of adjustments here. The one thing I like to do is normally for the grid lines, I turn those off because it kind of just becomes distracting. One of the things you want to learn to do with data visualizations is sometimes the best charts, you take out some of the extra visualizations part that are not needed. And when we take off the horizontal grid lines, that kind of cleans it up. And you can see now we have total sales by year, 2017, 18, 19, and 20. And what this shows, it tells a story that sales gradually went up. It peaked in 2019, and now we have 2020 sales. There are a couple of options you may want to choose. The first one of those is the title of the chart. So the total sales by year, and then the size of the title. So it defaults to 14. We can make this bigger. We'll make this a size 18, and then we're going to format this and center this. So that is the first visualization. That one is going to be the total sales by year, which is a line chart. The next visualization we're going to use is we're going to create a new page, and we're going to name this page, it's going to be a column chart. And the next two visualizations, we're going to create a column chart and a bar chart. Now for the column chart, we're still going to chart total sales, but what this is going to be is if you go to your data visualizations and you select the clustered column chart, select that visualization. We're going to bring it to the center and make this nice and big. And when you go to your building a chart option, you are going to see some of the different things you have for data visualization. So we're going to build this visual from the x-axis. We're going to bring in the year. From the y-axis, we're going to bring in total sales. So that builds out the bar chart. And that is the basics. Now, the one reason why you'd want to use a bar chart is that this shows the sales quickly for the user. They can see that 2019 has the most sales. 2017 has the least sales. And the power of data visualization is they always call it the 15-second rule. If somebody cannot understand a visualization in 15 to 30 seconds, then you may want to think about using a different visualization. So that is our second chart that you can create using total sales. That is called the custom column chart. Now, the next chart we're going to create a new page. We're going to rename this a bar chart. And with the bar chart, now remember the bar chart is similar to the column chart, except that rather than going vertically up and down like the column chart, the bar chart is going to be going left to right. So from your data visualization gallery, you want to choose a clustered bar chart. And when you choose that, we're going to make this bigger, bring this to the center of the page in the report view. And again, you're going to be asked for an x-axis. which is still going to be the year. Then for the y-axis, we're going to bring in total sales. Now, you'll see when this comes in, sometimes depending how long the name of the y-axis, that is when you may want to choose to use a bar chart. If it's shorter, you can use a column chart, but if it's longer, you may want to choose a bar chart. Now, again, they can quickly see the most sales in 2019, the least sales in 2017. One of the things I'm going to show you here for charting options, you can export the data if you needed to do that, and you can also format, and these are some of your different formatting options. Again, we're going to do the center. We're going to make this a little bit bigger. We're going to make this an 18 point. And then some of the other options you may want to choose is you may want to choose the different colors on your bars. So the default is blue. You may want to choose purple or another color. Again, we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of formatting the charts. This is to show you 10 different ways that you can choose to format your total sales. So now we have a line chart, we have a column chart, and we have a bar chart. Those are 3 different ways. The next visualization is going to be an area chart. Continuing to work with different ways to show your total sales rather than just sticking with one go-to chart. Remember, once you start building things and data visualizations in Power BI, you're going to have different users. And the goal of Power BI is to create and tell a story, but different users have different ways of learning, and there's different types of visuals that work best with Power BI to show different total sales. So we've already shown you the line chart by year, the column chart, the bar chart. Now we're going to go and create a new page, and this one we're going to call the area chart. And what I like about an area chart, when you look overall as you build out the visual, you can go to your data visualization gallery, and in the line and area chart, you'll select the second one, which is the area chart. Let's make this bigger, and you're going to build it out again. You're going to need a year and a total sales. And this is very similar to a line chart. The difference is it shades in the volume. So you've got your year on your x-axis. On the y-axis, you're going to bring in your total sales. And when you do this, you'll notice you start to see the shaded in area. So in 2017, it's a higher shaded in area in 2019, and some people can visualize that better. For some of your different formatting options, there's 2 ways to get to the data formatting. You can select the chart, and when you select that chart, you can go to the format, or on your right-hand side, you can choose format. Now this one, what I want to show you here again, you can center your chart, but again, I think it also looks best when you remove those grid lines, and that kind of takes off some of that. You could also choose to use data labels. That way you can see your data visualizations quickly as a total sales amount. So that is your area chart. Now, the go-to guide for a lot of data visualizations, as we create another chart, we're going to create a new page. Then we're going to rename this one card. And for a lot of years in Power BI, you had just one card option. So when you go to a card option, this is the older version of the card. And when you bring in your data viz, you're going to bring in just the sales, and you can see quickly that you've got $110 million in total sales. Now, they added in 2023 a second data card. This one is called the card new, and it's got the little lightning bolt. And if you select the blank area, you can select the new card visual. what this allows for is a couple of different things. You still can bring in your total sales measure, but quickly out of the box, it allows you to bring in multiple values into this card versus the old card, you could only bring in one visual. And in this one, you can bring in more of those. And secondly, for the formatting options, you can change the shape. The default is the rectangle, but you could use the rounded rectangle as well. So that is a different card visual. Remember, if you bring in a slicer, and if you want to quickly see sales by year, the user, if you choose to bring in a slicer, you could bring in, for that slicer, you could bring in the year, and they could choose from the different options. You can choose the slicer settings, and you can choose a tile. And now if they choose 2020, you see 2020 sales. If you choose 2017, you see the 2017 sales. So that is the card visual, both the old version and the new version. The next one we're going to choose is the map visual. We're going to add a new page. We're going to rename this map. And one of the things I like about the map visual, from the data visualization gallery, you choose the map. We're going to bring this into the center area. And when you build out this visual, you can choose to, on this visual, it'll default for the location. We're going to add in from the sales territory, we're going to add in the country. And now for the legend, the bubble size, we can bring in total sales. So now we have our total sales. The bubble size is dictated by the total sales. Remember, for your maps, you have different map options. You can do a map, you can do the filled map, and some of the other different map options. So that is a map visual of the total sales in Power BI. The next data visualization is going to be the decomposition tree. Now, this is one of the artificial intelligence functions with Power BI. This one was created a couple of years ago, and I did do a video on the decomposition tree that you can look for on the channel. But what I like about this one is it allows you to start with a basic visual, and you're going to get different options. So when we go to the data visualization gallery, under your AI visuals, it'll be the decomposition tree. Now, when you select that and resize it, it'll say to analyze. So what do we want to analyze? We want to analyze total sales. And the next thing it asks for is what you do want to explain by. So we're going to bring in a couple of different things. We're going to bring in, from the explain by, we're going to bring in the country, and we're going to bring in the year. So when we go to the explain by, we can add in from the date table the year. So now we have total sales. When you select the plus icon, you can choose country, and now you see all of the different country sales. Then when you select the plus icon a second time, we can select the year and see the sales by year within that country. And so that's how you quickly, what I like about the decomposition tree is you can quickly explain by, select 2 or 3 different items to explain by, and then also on the analyze by, you can bring in a measure and then start to explain that. So quickly, you can build out a story that says that the total sales in the United States were $69 million, and then you can quickly break that out by year. So that is your decomposition tree visual. The next total sales visualization we're going to do is a lot of times people forget you can build out a table. So from the data visualization gallery, you can select the table visualization, and all we're going to do is bring in the total sales visualization. Now you have the total sales visualization, and again, you could bring in a slicer, and you could quickly bring in the year for the slicer, and this will allow you to quickly allow the user to bring in that year. And now from the different formatting options, they can choose the vertical list. And if they select 2020, they see 24 million in sales. If they choose 2018, they see total sales of 2018. And again, you can make the options bigger on the values. If you want to, you can make this a 20-point font, and quickly for the user, they can get to the total sales. The next one is the gauge. Now for the gauge, we're going to add a new page. We're going to name this gauge. And for the gauge, what you want to choose is on the data visualization gallery, you have the gauge chart. You bring in the gauge, and this really just asks for one thing that's mandatory. When you go to the value, you are going to bring in total sales. Now with total sales, you have 110 million in total sales. Now what you want to add in is the target value. And from the target value, what you can do is you can add in the maximum value, and what we're going to choose is from the maximum value or the target area, we can choose what we want to choose for the target label, and you can choose from the values. So when you go to the gauge options, you can choose the target value. Now you could have this be a formula, or you can just type in a target value for the year. And when you choose this for the gauge axis, for the target label and the target values, you can choose for the call out value, and you can choose that out. So that is a different look at the gauge value in Power BI. Power BI, 10 impactful ways to show total sales. Now we've shown you 9 different data visualizations for total sales: the line chart, the column chart, the bar chart, the area chart, the new card and the old card, also the map, the decomposition tree, the table, the gauge, and now we're going to show you our 10th and final chart. Again, there is no right chart to show total sales. You as a Power BI developer are going to want to choose a chart that best works to tell the story you want to tell for total sales. The next one is going to be a decomposition tree. And for the decomposition tree, this one shows spatial. It's kind of a spatial chart that shows the breakdowns. So for the category, we are going to choose from our product table. We can take a look at total sales by category. Then when you go to the values section, we are going to bring in total sales. So it only requires 2 inputs, but it quickly shows you how the sales are comprised for this company, AdventureWorks. You can see right away that the largest sales are in bikes, and then the lowest amount of sales is the accessories. And then remember, if you had different visuals, you could add some tool tips for your different visualization. You could take a look at some of the formatting options. You can choose your different colors. You could center the total sales by category, and you can change your colors as well. If you wanted to show one color as maybe even if you want to use one color to highlight and then maybe show the other colors, a lot of times you'll see it in gray. So then that way you can see the different shades of gray, and it shows the impact is more prevalent with bikes and components. And then we keep the gray components for clothing and accessories. So a lot of times I've seen different sales broken out with some of the different tree maps. So that is your tree map chart. And those are the different ways that you can show total sales. Now, remember, when you go back to your line chart, that shows chronologically your sales. When you go to a column chart, that shows more quickly, visually, it highlights quickly that highest level of sales. And then a bar chart is just the column chart going left to right. There's really no difference. And then a card chart can have a quick impact when you show the total sales quickly as a number. Some people still like to see a number, some of your different users. And you can also see that when you go to your chart, when you use a table. So those are some of the different ways of showing data visualizations on total sales. Total sales is going to be one of the most common things that you're going to see in your sales dashboards. But remember, you as the designer and the creator are going to want to tell the best story. That is a look at 10 impactful ways of showing total sales. Remember, we've got a video on the decomposition tree, and we also have a video on Dax, and you can learn more about the sum function with your Dax. Remember, it's Power BI, learning to tell the best story with data visualizations as we continue to learn Power BI.